Hi friends, it's Miss Sabrina. I can't see you in person, but I really like knowing that I can still read you a story and share it with you on the computer. I live in a neighborhood where there are a lot of trees, and last night there was a big thunderstorm with lots of rain and wind and lightning, and one of the trees in my neighborhood fell down, just fell all the way over. And so I was thinking, what could we do to help take care of this tree? And I found a book. This book is called Growing Trees, and it made me wonder, how does a seed become a tree? And how indeed could that possibly be? So let's read this story together and see what we can learn. Growing Trees is the title of the book. The author's name is Judith Stamper. She wrote the words, and Wesley Lowe is the illustrator that drew the pictures. In this story, there's a little girl who plants a tree and learns everything she can about growing trees. This is a picture of me and my tree. We have been growing together for a whole year. She has been growing just like you, and the tree has been growing too. It all began last summer. I went to visit a national forest with my mom and dad. A forest is a great place to learn about trees. There are trees as far as you can see. We took a hike in the forest with a forester. This is the forester. He is an expert on taking care of trees in the wild. The forester showed us some small young trees that were just starting to grow, and some big old trees that were like towering giants. How tall do you think a towering giant could be? Show me how tall. Then the forester explained the life cycle of the tree. He explained that it all starts out with a seed. In the spring, the warm sun makes the seed germinate or begin to grow. Here's the seed at the beginning. The seed sprouts a small root that grows down into the ground. That root absorbs the water and minerals from the soil. Next, a tiny small stem pushes up out of the ground and grows two tiny leaves. You see the two tiny leaves? 1, 2. The leaves use sunlight to give the tree energy to grow. And then new growth, called a shoot, appears at the tip of the stem, and the larger leaves grow from the stem. The seedling is on its way to becoming a tree. When I was taking a walk out in my yard, I saw this small seedling growing up out of the ground. It has a small stem. The seedling has 1, 2, 3 leaves. And when I pulled it up out of the ground, I found a seed. Here is the seed. Here is the root that grows down into the soil, and the stem that grows up. Can you see that? I found this outside in my yard when I was taking a walk. The young tree will keep growing if it gets enough water and sunlight to survive. Look at that. Her tree is growing. In the next year of life, the tree grows buds that may turn into leaves. Soon the tree has branches, a woody trunk, bark, and lots of leaves. Look at that. It has a trunk and branches and lots of leaves. Each year, the tree grows taller and wider. Tall and wide. This is the forester. He can tell how old a tree is by counting its rings. A tree trunk has 1 ring for each year that it has been alive. This tree in the picture has been alive for more than 100 years. A forester can also find out how old a living tree is by using a tree borer. This is a tree borer. That is a tool that takes out a small part of the tree without hurting it. I have a part of a tree right here. Look at this. It's just like in the picture. And if you look carefully, you can see that there are circles that tell us how old this tree is. After our trip to the forest, I wanted to grow a tree of my own. Dad took me to a nursery. A nursery is a place where you can buy plants and flowers and trees. A nursery has trees that have been grown big enough to transplant, trees that can grow in a new place. This is the nursery worker. She's working at the nursery, and she showed me some trees that have flowers in the spring and fruit in the summer. We looked at trees that had soft leaves and trees with pine needles. I chose a maple tree. My tree was already more than 4 feet high. It's just a little bit taller than me. The nursery worker helped us choose a shovel. Why do you suppose they needed a shovel? They needed a shovel to plant the tree. She recommended organic fertilizer to help feed the tree as it grew. Then she went over the instructions on how to plant my tree. I picked out a place in our backyard. I could look around my backyard and find a place for a tree. I want a space where there would be lots of sunlight and lots of room for the tree to grow. Then my dad and I dug a hole with a shovel. The hole was as deep as the tree's root ball and about 3 times as wide. We carefully lowered the tree into the hole. We loosened the wrap around the roots. Next, we filled the hole up with more soil. I added organic fertilizer to the soil, and I sprinkled mulch on top. And then I gave my tree a nice drink of water. Dad asked an arborist to come and check the other trees in our yard. This is an arborist. An arborist is like a doctor for trees. She came and pruned the branches of our big trees with her pruning shears. Look at that, she has tools to do her job, to cut the branches. She checked all the trees for signs of disease. She also listened to see if there were bugs in the trees. She used a stethoscope. She looked just like a real doctor. One of our old trees had been damaged in a storm. The arborist used a handsaw and a chainsaw to cut 2 of the broken limbs. I asked the arborist to check my tree. She said it was doing just fine. She added a stake on beside the tree to help it grow straight. In the autumn, when the weather turned cold, my tree's green leaves turned bright red. Look at the leaves, they changed color in the cold air. And then they twirled down to the ground. The next spring, my tree grew buds that turned into leaves. And over the summer, the leaves grew larger with more leaves, and the trunk grew thicker. This is a leaf from my red maple tree. It has 3 lobes and edges that look like a sawtooth. Look at that. The bark on my tree is dark gray and rough with little ridges. All summer I watered my tree and I checked it for insects, and it kept growing. The arborist said that my tree could grow 60 feet high. That's taller than my house. And look at my tree now. It's much taller than I am. If I take good care of it, this tree will be around for a long time. A tree is a great friend to grow up with. If you could plant a tree too, which tree would you choose? Now, I was telling you that yesterday one of the trees in my neighbor's yard fell down. So we had to get some chainsaws and we had to cut the trunk of the tree like an arborist would do. So this is the trunk. It is gray and rough, and we used a chainsaw to cut the top and to cut the bottom, and now we can see the rings in the tree. And look, this tree's not round. This tree has an odd shape. And when the tree fell down, the branches fell. The wind was blowing so hard, this tree has branches and twigs and leaves. Look at the shape of these leaves. Looks to me like maybe an insect was chewing on this leaf. Oh, and it looks like an insect was eating that leaf too. Sometimes insects live in trees. Thank you for sharing this book with me called Growing Trees by Jude the Stamper. It was good to see you guys, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.